Welcome to the Fall 2020 Ladies Big Book Study Recording Series. My name is Kimberly and I am a recovered alcoholic. I am the facilitator of a tri-weekly Big Book Study for ladies only, and we record each session so we can share the knowledge along with you. What we do is we read the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous line by line. We pause on each page and have discussion time to share our experience, our strength, and our hope on each page. You are more than welcome to follow along in this series and do the work of the steps of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you do need support at any time, please reach out to me in the Contact Us area of my YouTube channel, and we're happy to provide you with support. The online recordings are open to men and women. Do not be discouraged, gentlemen. Our ladies' point of view may offer you a different perspective. So welcome. I hope you enjoy. All right, ladies, we are continuing on in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, Chapter 6, Into Action. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We have been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the fifth step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. So those certain defects are fears, conduct unbecoming, and resentments. These are the defects of character. People hear that word defects of character and they're like, defects of character, that sounds awful. I don't like that word. All it is, it's a lumping sum of your conduct that's unbecoming, that harms people, your fears, which do not serve us. We've seen that in our fourth step, and those resentments. These are our defects of character. The step 5 is we are just putting a finger on the weak items in our personal inventory and casting them out. We want to get them out of that dirty, dark, stank, dusty closet, shine some light on it so the shame disappears. Light is an excellent dissolver of shame, so we want to open the closet up and shine some light on those dark, dark, dark things that we don't want anyone to see. And who do we do this to? Ourselves, God, and another human being. The things on this list aren't meant to be shared publicly at a meeting. We don't want people doing their step 5s from a podium. You don't need to do that. We share in a general way at the podium at a meeting. And once we've done this process and we've shared it honestly with one other person, God and ourselves, we don't need to do it again. This isn't every time I do a step 5, I have to tell my step 5 listener that I was a prostitute, right? We don't have to do that every time we open the door. We do it one time. If you relapse 20 times, that one thing only needed to be illuminated the first time you did it. Unless you left out gory details that you were a murderous prosperous, then we want to add to the next 5. I'm using glorified examples, ladies. So that's one person, God, and ourselves. And we're going to discuss who that person is as we read. Does anyone want to add anything to that chapter or paragraph? It's pretty basic. Anne Marie does. Go ahead.
Sorry. You're right. Whenever we hear character defects, it's like thousands of words come into everybody's mind. Could you, or do you have a kind of mini breakdown like you did for the other things? So selfish means this, self-seeking means this, 2-3 words? Because conduct unbecoming, I mean, that is such a military term that I'm not sure everyone's going to get what would you put under that, you know?
All the action in your column 4 is on conduct.
Okay.
Lying, cheating, stealing, manipulating, painting red flags green, ignoring red flags. Anything you put down in that action column, that's your conduct.
Okay. 4A.
You got a master list of them already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fears is basic. You've got the list. Resentment. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Marianne Toronto. Good morning.
Hi, friends. I am an alcoholic from Toronto. My name's Marianne. Grateful to be here. Grateful to be sober today. I do have a question about the once. After doing a step 5 and then relapsing and then wanting to figure out what happened and get a little deeper dive, I don't have to go back to whatever I had said before to the person. Because I get confused too, because people say that you should do your step 5 with one person. So I didn't want to go back to the same sponsor I had with my original step 5. So I can just carry on with my new step 4 and 5 with my new sponsor.
Yes. So this is my perspective, and this is what has worked for me. And my advice, if you have a sponsor and you've done the work as that sponsor has given you, and then you relapse, I highly suggest trying a new way, because something didn't click that time. And that ruffles a lot of feathers. I understand that ruffles a lot of feathers, but I'm like, if it didn't work, there was something missing. You're going to receive the same message from the same person. So if you relapse, I like to shuffle the deck. It's really recommended, in my opinion. Now, for step 5, when you're doing it, you don't have to stick to the same person. You just need to find someone that you trust and have that spiritual consent with. Now, if you have these shameful skeletons in your closet and you've opened them into the light to one other person to get rid of the shame revolving around it, you don't need to repeat that again. What you do repeat is resentments you still have. So if you still have a resentment attached to that situation, for example, if child abuse and sexual molestation was part of my secrets, I've expressed that in a step 5. I've been sexually molested. I've been sexually abused. I've got that out. It's in the light. That never needs to be said again. If I have resentment around that, that's not resolved, I'm still holding anger, I need to do it in my 4. So it's the same situation, but it's handled 2 ways. The shame, the guilt, the skeleton in the closet, the light's open. I've told someone about it. What I need to do now is the writing out of the inventory of the 4 to resolve the resentment. Right? So, I mean, if I was a hooker and I just told my 5 I was a hooker, right? Just to be blunt, I don't need to share that again if I have no resentments against it. I've told God, I've admitted to myself and another person that I used to be in that industry. There we go. It's been shed light on. If I have no anger around it or resentment, I'm okay. If I do have anger and resentment about it, yes, I need to look at that. Okie dokie. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives. Trying to avoid this humbling experience, they have turned to easier methods. Almost invariably, they got drunk. They add that almost invariably just to be polite. They got drunk. Like, come on. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory, all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves, but they had not learned enough of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. In sharing our story, we heal. In sharing our story, we expose shame, guilt, and those dark skeletons to the light. In sharing our story, we find our experiences are not unique and other people share our experiences. And in sharing our story, we find we can help people. That's how we heal. The more I share my story, the more I share how I've overcome my story, the more I heal and the more peace and serenity I have. I did 4 step 4s before this. I did 2 step 5s before this. The math doesn't equal up. The misery does. I didn't heal. When I truly opened up, got honest, humbled myself, and told the truth to someone else and to God, I healed. The fear goes away when you hear someone else say, me too. The shame goes away when we hear someone else, I understand, me too. That's where we heal. There's no healing in hanging on to the darkest, deepest secrets. The only thing that keeps happening is misery. What we do is we open up and we tell people everything except the worst things. Tell the worst things first. They're not bad. I am rarely shocked. Rarely. And why? Well, you're not going to overcome drinking. You might be dry, but you're not going to find peace and serenity. And if you really hang on to some stuff and hang on to those resentments, you will drink again. I promise. You will. That's why my book looks like this. Look where people stop doing the work. You want to see the pages that are falling out? That's the pages I live in. And they're not in this portion of the book. The places I live in, the places I study, the places I refer to when working with others are here where these pages are coming out. Into action. I live in there. This part, I read that to how many people? Hundreds. I should have 2 folds in my book. This second part is me. This is everybody else. Join me over here. Let's work this area of the book. It's kind of like the guy that goes to the gym and he's got huge muscles on top and this is his legs. Wendy. I love that you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Where did Wendy go?
Okay.
There
Can
you
hear
are.
me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So I get what you're saying about like if something's been resolved and we've already talked about it on the previous, we don't need to redo it. So does that mean like if we get a new sponsor at any time for any reason, it's not valuable regarding our program that they know these things about us necessarily? You know, some of our darker past or?
It is really valuable, but for the purposes of opening the light, if you have opened the light, you will already be doing this. I share very openly my story. so if you've already kind of shone the light on these dark things, they tend to be in the light. But if it's still cropping up, it's really important to look at it. And if you're working an active program, you should be open and honest with your sponsor.
Yeah, it just hit me that if it is something I feel like I don't want to tell her, then I probably need to tell, even if I already told someone else.
Yeah, usually,
Yeah.
because it helps us. It helps us to know where you're at, right? Like,
Right.
but I mean, if it's just something like sex abuse, I had sex abuse in my past. Is it causing me grief and pain and shame? No. Do I bring it up all the time? No. Do I bring it up when it's useful? Yeah. But it's not something where I'm like, it's vitally important to my recovery, because it's definitely been resolved. It's no longer an issue. But, you know, like my working as an exotic dancer, my sponsor knows that. Is it a problem for me? No. But it helps her to relate to me and my experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
And I will say one thing, and we're going to talk about this more because we're coming into, you know, those people that we pick. But if there's something you're not able to talk to your sponsor, you need to find a new sponsor. You should be able to talk about every area of your life and not be held back by something. And if you don't have that spiritual consent with your sponsor, I highly suggest you find someone comfortable talking to about everything. And we're going to talk about the things we don't talk about to certain people as well as we go. Pat, did you have your hand up, love? No? Okay. All right. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on his sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth, nor have we followed their advice. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have a low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery. So the double life, been there, done that, right? I am this person in front of my family. I am this person in front of my work colleagues. I'm an entirely different person around my friends group. And then I might be an even different person on social media, right? So look at all the masks we wore. And it's like my friends group never met my church people because I was a different person in all those groups. So how could I ever introduce my groups to one another? We need to get rid of all of those masks. We need to become one person. I am the same person on the Zoom as I am privately in my home, as I am on social media, as I am with my friends, as I am with my sponsees. I am the same person everywhere I go right now. And I also don't apologize for who that person is. This is me. Have at her. And so I think a lot of when we put our masks on is because we didn't feel good enough. We didn't feel like we deserved what we had in all the places we got. And so we had different people for different places. Psychologists, doctors, therapists. How can they help us when we don't tell them the truth? And how can anything they do tell us help us if we don't follow their directions? We need to be honest with the people in our support group, our sponsors, our Step 10 buddies, our therapists, our doctors, our social workers, if we have social workers involved, I had different stories for all of those people. How am I going to get help? I need to be honest and tell all of these people the same thing. Where I'm at, what's going on, what this person is telling me. If I'm going to see doctor number 1 and therapist number 2, I gotta make sure they both know what the other one is saying. My therapist has got me on this medication, my doctor's got me on this medication, and I'm not talking to either of them. And I'm not telling either of them the truth about what's truly going on. How is anything going to help me? It's not. So we need to make sure we're on the same page. One face. That's all we got. Just one. Linda.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's interesting because, the line of work that I was in, I would go and look at my closet and determine what character I needed to portray that day. It's like I had 1,001 different characters that I would utilize to do what I was doing. And then, as a result of all that, I ended up being locked up for 60 days with the criminally insane because they needed to assess me, right? But I think I'm okay today as long as I do what you're telling me to do. Everything's going to be okay. Yeah. So it's very interesting that we're talking about that because I don't tell the truth. I still omit facts. So I'm really continuously looking forward to growing and nurturing a positive relationship with the God of my understanding because I already see him working in my life. I've changed. I see the change in me since I started this. And it's very exciting to me. Yeah, so I want to thank you, Kimberly.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Linda, we can see like the open-mindedness is like, woo, there it is from when you first got here. Absolutely. And we talked about this a bit in previous chapters with that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And, like my prime example is at my workplace. My former workplace, when I worked in the corporate world, there were people that were like, oh my God, Kim, she's such a bitch. Like that Kim, she's a ball buster. And other people were like, Kim, she's like the nicest girl in the world. Well, why? Because it was what you played in my world, that the version of Kim you got, right? And now it's just like same thing everywhere. Marianne?
So when you start living this way and you realize what masks you used to wear, do you find sometimes that you're catching yourself going, oh, you're trying to pick up that familiar old mask again, Marianne? I guess it's just practice, right? Practice and time. Thanks.
One thing that I've found, and it's kind of funny, it's really weird, but what I find is my brain plays tricks on me where I am being 100% authentic, and whereas before I had 5 different masks, now I'm the same everywhere. And what I get now is healthy people like me and non-healthy people don't. And it goes back to that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, where the people that liked me before were the people I could control and manipulate, and the people that didn't like me before are the people that were against me. So my brain will sometimes play tricks on me because, we inherently want people to like us. And so when you're authentically you and a big book thumper, you ruffle feathers. And so sometimes it hits that spot in me where I'm like, ooh, this feels icky. Is it me playing a mask or no? It's my wellness is hitting someone else's. And that's a bit of the mindset work that we have to do too, is remembering that sometimes what we're doing is going to get a reaction out of somebody else because it hits them. That's a them problem, not a me problem. When it's a me problem is when I'm not being true to me and I'm playing those self-seeking, selfish roles. And so that's where we kind of, when we get that feeling, we got to take a step back, do that step 10 work where it's like, okay, am I leading with self? Am I being self-seeking? No, my motives and my intentions are pure. Whatever I'm doing is hitting something in that person. And so they're reacting as to what part of them it's hitting. And that's taken a lot of work for me to understand. Fern, good morning.
Hi, everyone. My name's Fern, and I'm an alcoholic. I was just thinking about roles and playing roles, and I learned how to do that when I was a little kid. Because we moved around a lot, so I had to adapt and fast, and that's how I survived it. And I always, whoever I was with, I learned how to play a role or to fit in with you, and so. Like a chameleon, really. So, and that followed me through to being an adult. When I was with a guy, like if he liked me, then I would shape my personality to fit his. Like I would, oh yeah, I love country western music. And just bend myself into pretzels, just trying to be that. Whatever he will, like, oh yeah, I go moose hunting, yeah, and then and wake up like 17 years later going, how did I get here? And being totally angry and crazy and stuff. But anyway, I suffered from being dishonest with everybody.
Absolutely, I can relate to that. Me at a ZZ Top concert, like,
oh yeah,
what? I'm not in the right spot. Wrong mask. All right, bottom of 73 if you're lost. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course will want, to go through to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained in an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. If we cannot, or would rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for a closed-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story we tell to someone who will understand yet be unaffected. Highlight and circle it and underline that word, please. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Underline that. So that's talking about who we are going to choose. This is important. It's really important. And when I do step groups at my house, we usually have step 5 listeners, and we put their names in a hat. And so God guides your hand to choose the right match. And the stories that I've gotten from those experiences, the hand picking out of a hat is amazing. We are virtual, so we don't have that opportunity to do that here. So we need to make sure we're choosing someone that we trust. Someone we know has solid sobriety, is a closed-mouthed, emotionally mature member of Alcoholics Anonymous. We want to make sure that we are comfortable telling this person our life story and our secrets. This person needs to be someone that's willing to listen and to keep their closed mouth after you've shared your things with them. We also need to remember that there are some of us here who have twisted, sordid pasts, and there are statutes of limitation that we need to remember criminally, as well as if you have current legal things going on in your life, you want to be very careful who you tell certain things to. This is a room of Alcoholics Anonymous. I am not saying this to scare you. I am saying this so that you make an informed choice about the parts of your story you share with someone. If you are in a legal battle with your spouse over your children, and I have heard this example, you may want to speak to someone about things relating to your children that you may have used against you in a court of law in a custody suit, to someone who is bound by authority to keep your confidence. Also, some of us have been involved in some dark and shady criminal things. There are statutes of limitations we have to remember. We do not know who these people are in these rooms, and we need to talk to the appropriate people who are bound by their position to keep your confidence. If you have criminal acts in your story that have not outdated their statute of limitations, which is usually 7 years, tell them to a lawyer. It doesn't mean you keep them secret. It means you tell them to a lawyer. Minor stuff, you're probably okay. It depends on who you choose. You got to remember, everybody here is not equal. Some people are super well, they're super impartial, nothing would faze them. Me, nothing fazes me. I know the code of the streets because I've been on the streets. Things with me, not going anywhere. But you don't know that about someone else. You don't know their capacity to be closed-mouthed and respect the process, to lack of better words. If you have something with the statute of limitations has not run out, protect yourself and tell those things to someone bound by office to keep your confidence. And I stress that it's not so much important with the girls. It's more important to stress that with the boys, for obvious reasons. Sorry, boys, but you guys tend to do more criminal acts than we do. But the one that I have seen come up is child custody. I've heard actual stories of people whose fifth step has been used against them in custody court. This is Alcoholics Anonymous. I just disclaim it. It's very important to me because I don't want to see anyone be harmed by their fifth step. We want to find someone we can trust to tell our stuff to. And if you are a fifth step reader or listener, keep confidence. And if someone starts to tell you something you can't hear, stop them. You can stop a 5 if you are a listener and say, I am not comfortable with this conversation. Please, let's talk to someone so we can connect you. That is okay. Don't feel obliged to sit and listen to something if it's triggering you, if it's harming you, it's affecting you, or it's morally against something that's deeply running through your veins. Please, this is important. This step is where freedom comes. And we need to not take it lightly and be like, yeah, I'll be a 5 listener. That's fantastic. This is an amazing, amazing spiritual consent. Someone is trusting you with their life story and their darkest secrets. That's sacred. Sacred. It's beautiful, but we can't take it lightly. It's okay to stop and say, this is too much for me. I need to connect you with someone else to hear your 5. We can all be emotionally mature. That's how we grow, is by doing things that make us uncomfortable. But it's so important. This is a beautiful step. And a lot of the times there's tears and there's giggles and there's like belly laughs when you realize that something so dark and shameful can be laughed at because the other person goes, me too, and tells you a story, and all of a sudden that shame falls off your shoulders. This is a beautiful step, not to be taken lightly. Sorry, ladies. We do not choose someone that can be affected. Another very important part. Someone that can be affected is someone that can be emotionally attached to it. So my example is my step 10 buddy. So my step 10 buddy was really good friends with my ex when we were together. So obviously if I had things going on, I couldn't go to her because it would affect her relationship with him. So we need to make sure whoever we're telling our 5 is unaffected. That includes by trigger. So if there's something in your story that is unresolved and could possibly trigger you, you might not be at a space to listen to a 5 from someone new. It could upset you and cause you harm. There's not a cookie cutter here. There's not a cookie cutter. It's just so important that this is somebody that you trust, somebody that you know can be a closed mouth confidant. And make sure we get that spiritual consent. Conversation. Stories. My favorite is I had a phone call on a Monday night from a guy that was running a step group, and he goes, I got a girl. She needs you to go to the beach and listen to her 5. What color car are you driving? I literally pulled up to White Rock Beach in my car, unlocked the doors. This broad got in, told me her 5, got out, and left, and I've never seen nor heard from her again. But what she shared needed to be shared with someone that she didn't know, that was unaffected and was never going to come back to her. I literally was a step 5 listener. I sat there, we talked, we laughed. It ended up being 3 hours, and I'm sure she's living her best life now. These situations are not cut and dry. They're beautiful. Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee. I'm Lee, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for your describing the people that are a good idea to do this with. When I did my first 5th step, I did it with a counselor and certified psychologist, counselor person that we assume is the person that's not legally bound to discuss anything about us. But what I remembered was the very beginning meeting that I had with this person, and she went through all the things that she actually could talk about to a legal. She could report me or whoever. So it was a warning to a client. This is what you're not going to talk to me about, or if you're going to, I have the responsibility to report you, and I will. And that was like, oh, really? I thought this was the land of you can say anything and nothing's going to happen. I think there's a tendency to maybe forget the longer you work with somebody, because when I was deciding on my 5th step, I actually forgot about that she had warned me about it. And I was like, okay, that's good that it came up as I started the 5. And I thought, there are things I don't want anybody to be looking at. I wasn't looking at it in terms of 7 years or whatever. It was part of my past, very far past, that I wanted to share with a person. That's what the book told me to do, and I was going to do that. But it was very interesting. Don't be fooled by the fact that you might be reported for something. Yeah, just an important message. Thank you for including all the different categories, being religious, being non-religious, it's whatever it is, whoever you've chosen.
Absolutely. And you can break it up. There's no rule. There's no rule on your 5 either, right? And I thank you for bringing up that about counselors. Make sure the person you're talking to doesn't have loopholes. A lawyer is your ironclad closed mouth. If you have a lawyer and you have some sticky stuff, that's your closed mouth person. And I do know lawyers that are in the fellowship. So if anyone has anything and they need clarification, I can connect you. And that's another thing I was going to say too is we're connectors. I am a master people connector. And I've talked about this before. Professionally, I was an analyst. I take stats and I listen, and I'm wackadoodle like that. And the one thing I've found that's good about that is my ability to connect. And I tend to go to a lot of meetings. I have a very expansive range of knowledge of people in the program. Why is that important? Because someone can come to me and they're like, I'm really having a hard time finding someone to read my 5 with. And I'll go, okay, why? And they'll say, well, I've got this thing and I don't know who to talk about. And then, for example, I had a gentleman come up to me and he had a sordid criminal past. And he's like, I can't find anyone to do my 5 with me. And I know a guy that has the exact same path so that we're able to connect. I got a guy that you can talk to. call this person. And he was able to do us 5. So this is another valuable tool we pick up at meetings. When you're in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, you're listening to other people's stories so that when someone says, oh, you know, like we had a guy the other night on the 164 at night, and he's like, well, I'm in the music business. It's impossible to get sober. I know sober musicians. Let me connect you. There's not a situation I can't connect because I listen in meetings. We got to remember that we're in meetings because we're looking to add to the stream of life. If you are at a meeting looking to suck out of, your intentions are wrong and you're going to be miserable. I'm at a meeting to gain. I'm looking to give back. What can I get from this to give back? And one of the most amazing things is the gift of connection. I listen to people's stories and I learn about them so that when I get someone that approaches me, I'm like, I don't think I'm the right fit for you, but I got a guy or I got a girl. And that's really vital in this step. It's amazing, right? You know, if someone has a past as a prostitute, I have a girlfriend. She's even written a book about it. So I'm able to connect her to that experience. You want an exotic dancer, send them all my way. I'm pro at that one. But, you know, I know little bits about certain things, but I also know people who know more than me. And that's really important to get the right fit around here. Anne-Marie.
Yeah, this is the part. I'm Anne-Marie, I'm an alcoholic. Which will hurt them and make them unhappy. We have no right to save our own skin and another person's feelings. This is what I was referring to the other day when we were talking about tell the husband, not tell the husband, or tell the boyfriend, not tell the boyfriend, that you're going to make amends to someone. This is what I meant. Would that not apply?
No, this is your 5. We'll get into tell the husband, not tell the husband in the amends portion. But this is your 5. You're never going to do your step 5 with your husband.
Okay. I don't have one, so you're right.
Right. Well, if you had one, right? You want the person to be unaffected.
Okay.
So if part of your story involves the other person or someone closely related to you, they're affected.
Okay. Has nothing to do with 9.
No, nothing to do with 9. But okay. A similar line is in 9, and we'll discuss it when we get there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And that paragraph I really don't like. For those who took this before, they know I don't like that paragraph. Similar to my feeling about 2 wives, but anyways, I digress. Back to the book. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, this step may be postponed only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it at the first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve what we are driving at, and that he will not try to change our plan. But we must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. If you can't find somebody, call me. I'll help you find somebody. There are little paragraphs in here that people love to use as scapegoats to not do the work, and this is one of them. I call bullshit if you tell me you can't find someone to do your 5 with. Give me a call. I know I can connect you. And where it says there, only if we are at complete readiness to do it when someone comes up. That includes the willingness to ask someone that's a connector to connect you. If you're going, well, I can't find anybody to do my 5 with, so I'm not doing my 5. That's not good enough. The real answer would be, I can't find anybody to do my 5 with, but I really want to get it done. Do you know someone? That's readiness. There's a difference. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We have a written inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we are about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaging upon a life and death errand. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. So that's called spiritual consent. I have that written in my book. And, this book was written 85 years ago, and there wasn't a lot of alcoholics who were proficient in being a Step 5 listener. Nowadays, you can simplify that a bit because most of us know what we're doing. You don't really have to explain it. This is more important if you are going to a lawyer, or you are going to your clergy member, or you're going to somebody bound by their profession to keep your confidence. Then you would explain what you're doing and the importance of why you're doing it. Nowadays, a lot of people that are in those positions that we would approach know what we're talking about. We have a nun here in my area, and she listens to fives all the time. And so she knows. So you don't have to explain to her. If you're doing this with another alcoholic and you have to explain what a Step 5 is, choose someone else, please. The person, if they're in this fellowship and you're doing your 5 with them, should already know what it is and should hopefully have done one before. And most people approached will be honored to do this because they're trying to help you to a better life. So what do? We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. That does not say we whip out our list and we start in column 1 and column 2. I can't stand that. This is not another person's inventory. It is our inventory. You start with your life story. What happened to you? How'd you get here? I was a young child. My parents got divorced. My babysitter's husband molested me. I moved. My adolescence was strained. I wore lots of masks. I started drinking. I got into using men to fill my hole. I became an exotic dancer. I started to fill my hole with drugs and alcohol while I was an exotic dancer. I got into the dark life. I dated a Hell's Angel. I started to do bad, nasty things in criminal ways with them. And I abused my body. I abused my soul. I got married to the wrong guy. I was abused domestically. I was a shitty mom. I stole from work, really liked my office supplies, and now I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. Obviously, there's more to my story, but that's my story. I illuminate my story. I pull out all the dark twists and crannies of my past. I pull out all the shame from the closet. Then I talk about my fears and my conduct. Have I talked about the people on my resentment list? Should I talk about the people on my resentment list? This is my inventory. This is my 5. Don't do their 5. What you should get help with is the reading of your inventory, fear to action to harm, so that you can tie it together. But we should have done that by now. We're not going over this list like it's a freaking victim impact statement. I pocket my pride and I illuminate every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. I tell my story. Please stop living your victim impact statement in your 5th step. That is not what it's about. The step reads, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. It doesn't say illuminate all the shit people did to me. If you find that page in the book, rip it out and send it to me. I'd like to study it. It's not there. Our story, illuminate yourself. Once we have taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. We can look the world in the eye. Why? Because we have that I just told someone all that crap I've been fucking lugging around and my back was tired. It's about time I put that damn heavy backpack of skeletons down. We carry this crap with us. Telling someone else and being like, that's my stuff. And hearing them say, me too. Having some laughs over stories of the crap that you've been hiding and drinking because of. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. There you go. You cannot have a spiritual experience if you haven't had a 5. Doesn't come after your first step, second step, third step, or fourth step. It's in the 5th step. It's right here on page 75. Once you've told someone your life story fully, honestly, and gotten that light in that closet, you start to have a spiritual experience. The block is gone. You're now connecting to the sunlight of the Spirit. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the Spirit of the universe. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for 1 hour, carefully reviewing what we've done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book down from the shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. That's page 59 for those who want to jot it down. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything. For we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? So when we go home, we sit for an hour. We contemplate how we feel. Ask yourself, did I leave anything out? 9 times out of 10, there will be something that comes up in that hour meditation that you've left out. That will be a follow-up call to the person you listened to your 5 with to say, there was something I missed. And then you illuminate it. It's that simple. If down the road in meditation or in a meeting something pops up, illuminate it. The layers of the onion will now start to peel away, and we can illuminate them as they come. For example, I had a lady and she did her 5th step. We then went to a speaker meeting within the week of doing her 5th step. At that speaker meeting, the speaker, who is my now sponsor, shared about having an abortion. And the girl turned to me in the meeting and she goes, I didn't say that in my 5th step. I've had abortions. I said, we need to look at it. So we're able to do a mini 4, which is also called a step 10, and illuminate it. Easy. It gets dealt with as it pops up. There's stuff that pops up. I had one pop up the other day. I stole my stepdad's Neil Diamond CD. I gotta do it. I gotta make the amends. We do it as it pops up. We take the book down from our shelf and we carefully turn to page 59 and we go over the first 5 proposals. And we make sure we're solid in our work so far. This is the foundation of the rest of our lives. Lay it properly, ladies. And from here, we keep going. We go through that beautiful arch to our new life, and this is where we live. We get to do those 10s. We get to make amends as they pop up. Things pop up. We deal with them. No big deal. All right, questions, comments, concerns? Anne-Marie?
Okay. Hi, I'm Anne-Marie. I'm still an alcoholic. Okay, the 5th. Now, I understand that you're saying don't just read column 1 and 2. I get that entirely. But I've always been told that the 5th was, in fact, a reading of the 4th. All the columns, not just column 1 and 2, but all the columns. Now you're telling me that it's not that. It's first I share my story in a summarized kind of way, because otherwise we'd be there for days and days. And then I talk about my fears, just the last column. Right?
Yeah.
So what do I say about my fears? I'm afraid of abandonment. She's going to say, yeah, okay, so?
So the instructions on the book, nowhere in the book does it say that we go over our resentments at all. We've put those, we put those out of mind. So it says we look at our defects of character, and it says we decide who is to hear our story. So we're telling this person our story, and we illuminate. So when we're telling our story, we're not going to illuminate the good stuff.
No.
We're illuminating every twist of character and every dark cranny of the past. And so that then when we explore it, we're going to go over our fears and make sure we understand how our fears set the ball rolling on our conduct, which is our defects of character. That's as far as we go.
So we're actually dealing with backwards. In the fifth, we're dealing with columns 5, 4, A, and B.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
That's it.
That's what we're dealing with. Okay, got
Absolutely. It. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I the first 4 4s and the 2 5s I did were a victim impact statement. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know how in the fellowship it became that.
Weird.
That's just, and I've also heard people that they read their 4th step and their sponsor writes down and tells them what their defects of character are. Please, for the love of God, don't do that. That's judging someone. That's damaging. I had someone do that in my first 4. I went through my victim impact statement and they judged me and told me my defects of character. It harmed me. This person really shouldn't say much of anything except me too. Or I have that same experience, and this is my fears that were around it, and this was the conduct I did, and this is how I live now. Please don't do that judgy thing, because there's nothing in here that says that. Nothing. I'm a book purist because it works. If it's not in the book, I don't suggest doing it. Anybody else? Marianne?
So I understand that, if you've sponsored somebody and you've taught them how, by your book pure method, how to do this 4th step. What if you do have somebody who wants to give you your 5th step, their 5th step, and it is a victim impact statement, and you can see that it is?
Absolutely. And that happens a lot with people who are retreads. I hate that word, but for lack of better word, as I like to say, because they've done it that way before. And I'll stop and refer to the chapter. And I'll say, well, the book says we tell our story and we illuminate the dark path and the twists of character. And we just keep them on book. But if you've brought them to this point, we should have worked them through the 1 and the 2, put out of sight the thoughts of others, and been in 3, 4, 5 as we were doing the work like we did together. We've explained it as we went. So at this point, they shouldn't really be in 1 or 2 if they've been doing the work alongside you. We should be all in the same place. Sometimes I get people that call me and they're like, I got a 4 done and I need to talk to you. And it's like, sometimes I'm like, can you just rip it up and let's try it again? Because we can do this kind of in an afternoon. Yeah. But it's right on page 75 of our instructions. We tell the person our story, and what do we illuminate in our story is the dark crannies, so shame shit, and twists of character. There's your defects of character in your conduct, right? So that's what we illuminate in there. And usually I take that opportunity just to sit with them with their 4 and make sure they know how to read it. I tend to do that in my 5s as well. Before we go into this part, I'll be like, do you have the reading of it left or right to left down? And they're like, okay. So I'll usually read a couple of them so that they do the fear to the action to the harm, just to make sure they have the comprehension. And then the rest is just their story. And the only time I interrupt is to Me Too. And I'll tell us, and I usually try to keep my Me Too's to funny, light, to make it less shameful. when I do my Me Too's, it's typically, oh yeah, I did that too. Big smile on my face to make sure it's not feeling judged, because that's the worst, is to do your 5 and to feel judged. So I try to keep it light. It's dead serious, but if I'm like, oh yeah, me too. And then when I tell the story, I tell it with the cheery voice, to kind of try to shine more light on that shame, because we really want to get that shame gone.
Where does it say, can we tell our story? I see the illuminating parts of twist of character.
First paragraph. When we decide who is to hear our story.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I was reading right over it.
Yeah. And then we illuminate every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. So
Thank you.
So just think of in a movie, right, where the loud music would come. That's what we illuminate. Ooh, this is a juicy part. For picture words. Anybody else? All right, let's Serenity Prayer it. So if you do need a 5 reader, a listener, I always say that wrong. If you do need a 5 listener, please reach out. I am a master connector. I know a lot of people that are capable of listening and would be very honored to listen. If you are listening on YouTube, you can email me as well if you need to be connected or have any questions. Thank you. Let's close up with a serenity prayer.